Good morning. It is 10:34 because I'm a few minutes late this morning. It is Sunday, and that means it is time for Sunday Club, a weekly Ruby on Rails live stream, where each week we do some Ruby on Rails coding, and we are building an application incredibly slowly. We're building an application that allows people to organize events and have people register and take part in those events, especially in groups. And we do that for a couple of hours every Sunday morning. That is all the intro I usually do, I think. And then I usually go into follow-up. So we have pretty much zero follow-up. I haven't done anything. It's all following up with this since last week. So we are picking up quite literally where we left off. And we'll have to take a couple minutes to ramp back up, but we were doing some user interface design in Sketch, and then hopefully we will code up some of the stuff that we're designing and see about the design decisions and trade-offs that have to get made along the way. And we will put in here the usual caveat that we will probably mention a few times on the stream, that there's no like planning or due diligence or like this is not a good example of how to do things. We're just kind of doing things casually on the stream because it's fun and kind of seeing, just stretching out our brains a little bit of product design, a little bit of user interface design, a little bit of code design. Just we're doing it. We're just relaxing on a Sunday morning. All right, let's get straight into it because we've got so little follow-up. Okay. Sketch is an application in which you can design things. We have some bits of UI design, and this I think is where we got to at the end of last week, and it's the idea of it's sort of the idea of this first onboarding experience for someone who wants to, in this instance, organize event rather than take part in an event. So our kind of assumption here is that people who want to take part in an event will probably go to find an event, like they're browsing around for an event to take part in. They're probably not too fussed about creating a user account without knowing exactly what event they want to take part in. The most likely behavior for those types of users is going to be, hey, I want to find an event in my area, or I want to find an event from this organization. I already know which event I want to take part in, and I'm going to have that experience. That's likely to, in my mind, to be the majority of those users. What we're designing the experience for is, hey, I actually want to run an event, and I need to tell you about it, and about me, and about the organization that is running this event. And so that's sort of the experience that we're running. We have a server running here, and so we wired up this Get Started button. Again, no user interface design anywhere in this. This is just from the kind of large text styling comes from Primer, which is the CSS and ViewComponent library that we used, and the buttons come from there too. And so we wired up a button here that says Get Started, and we took you to this /organizers/getting started. And this is basically creating an organization rather than creating a user. Now, if you go back in the YouTube archive, we've got a couple of conversations in there around there are an unlimited sort of number of ways of doing that. And we just happened to have chosen this way. So you could make everyone create a user account before they go any further. You could start collecting details about the organization. We have deliberately made them tell us about an organization rather than creating like an orphaned event and then telling us about the organization. But none of those decisions are sort of fixed in stone forever. You could come back and change those decisions. But we sort of I just sort of picked some moderately arbitrary ones, but I do like the idea of when we were looking at other event systems, I like the idea that there is a spectrum of how much friction do you place up front for an event organizer, from Eventbrite, which is effectively none. I think they asked for like 4 bits of information and then you were on your way, and then they would prompt you for everything afterwards, all the way through to a couple of the other ones that were like, right, here is pages and pages of information you have to give us. But when you get to the end of it, you'll be able to process finances. You'll be able to register all your people. You'll be able to do all the marketing and everything. And you could drop out, but it was really designed for you to do it all up front. And that differentiation, I guess, is is probably more your casual event organizer. Maybe casual is the wrong word, versus like maybe someone who does it for a living, or is perhaps doing larger events, or wants to do more structure and diligence in terms of how they group their registrants and things like that. So I think the experience you give people and the flexibility you put into it up front can sort of help to signal to the user. They're like, oh, okay, well, actually, they're asking me a lot of questions that I don't know the answer to yet. Maybe this friction, and maybe this is good friction, and they're helping me learn what I want to do about my event, or maybe it's actually this is too rigid for me. And so we're sort of erring slightly more on that rigid side by asking about that stuff up front. So how are we going to lay this stuff out on a screen? So we had from ages ago, I don't really remember doing this, but we had this sort of like half and half layout, which was similar to the old, I don't know if they still do this, but Slack used to do this like hot full page image on the left. And they also didn't do an image one. They did a pattern one, didn't they? They had like a, this is from years ago. I have no idea what Slack onboarding looks like these days. But they had like a big, it's like a tartany pattern on one side, and I think it had text on it, and on the right was like who did all the stuff. So I've obviously taken that inspiration from somewhere to do in the stream on a sketch file, and then I've just lived it over here. And at the end of last week, we were sort of talking about, oh, well, actually, what does it look like to have a header and a footer when you've got this kind of full screen, full image experience? So here we've just got this. This is a symbol in Sketch, this header, but it's just empty. It just has the logo in it, but it's the default wide header as opposed to the mobile one. And then I plonked, I think this was right at the very end, I plonked a footer on here. And the question I was trying to answer there with that sort of thing was like, hey, if you're putting a full height, maybe not like a full height, I guess, image, is it the full height of the viewport? Is it the full height of the window between the header and footer? And what are the trade-offs there? So for example, if it was the full height without the header, do you give people navigation links? On mobile, it's potentially not going to be full height because you're going to need to probably not have them left and right. You're probably going to have them above and below each other. So again, do you just have no navigation there? One of the pros of the kind of no navigation is that a user is in a flow and is less likely to leave because they only have the form to fill in. Whereas what we were talking about here was if this was the kind of default new event experience, could you drop to this from multiple places and things like this? And also, so what we had then done was make this a section header default. So the idea of like having a symbol in Sketch that you could put at the top of any section. And so section I was thinking of in terms of like the same sort of meaning as like a genericized section. Doesn't have to be like the word section itself is agnostic of what's in it. Just like the section of a page or a section of content. I think in HTML, a section is like designed to go within. No, it's not designed to go with an article. I think they're separate. You can just have sections within an HTML page. Can't remember. All right, so I think this is not great. How much do we want to do polishing and how much do we want to do coding today? Let's sort of let's sort of see how we get on. But let's assume that this is a multi-step process, okay? And let's assume that what changes? This stuff here on the right-hand side changes, and maybe everything changes, and this is just a different image every time. Too distracting. Let's see what that looks like. So I would imagine that this is just me typing in like running to Unsplash or like event into Unsplash or something. You can do that from within Sketch, can't you? Where do you do that? Totally forgotten. I think you can do it. Oh no, I have genuinely forgotten. We were doing this not long ago. You can say to Sketch, just give me a picture from Unsplash or something like that. And you do that by... and again, I know I mention this regularly, but just for people watching back, I can't adjust the zoom on the controls in Sketch. I can adjust the zoom in here, so we can make this larger, but I can't find a way to make these bigger on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side as well. Okay, so in here you can do... I thought you could do fill image. And then you could... choose image. Oh, is choose image just going to pop up the thing? Okay. There is a mechanism in here somewhere where you can say, is it data or something? Here we go. Data, sketch data. Here we go. Unsplash, search photo. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So let's do like event crowd. Oh, and then I want to get rid of this fill. Sorry. Okay, so event crowd has got me a picture of a car. So that's not... I don't know what tagging system they use in... Can you do... If I do refresh data, will it just... Okay, oh, that's pretty helpful. Okay, great. Oh, that one's quite nice. Okay, so it's like a... I guess it's like a pride flag or something. It's a bit grey, though. It's like at the top. It's really colourful at the bottom. Sorry, this is... Maybe event crowd isn't the right search term. No, I don't want a black and white one. I want it to like... Okay, I should just go to Unsplash and look if I really want to browse around. Why are all these cars with event crowd? This is a super cool feature from within Sketch though, because you... Oh wow, they're really into that. You can do really fast work, and you can also wire up like data sources. So I think you can get like, hey, I need some filler text or something like that in there, and they will pull it from specific sources. So I think you could have like for your specific application or something, you can make a feed. I don't know what the format of it is. But then your dummy data in your sketch file could always be relevant to what your application is doing, which is pretty great. Okay, I want one that's sort of agnostic of landscape and portrait. Let's go with the most colorful. Let's sort of go this one. I think I see this one around all the time. I've used it myself. Like it's a pretty generic crowd shot. Let's go and grab it down here. Cool, and then we can chuck it into here. Sorry, I'm just moving off the page. Let's see if we can get that. Great. So that, where does that live alongside the rest of it? Where's the image on the left? Let's see if we can find it. Oh, had I already lost it? Oh, I've already... Hang on a second. We just do it the other way around. Replace with... Disconnect from data source. Oh, okay. Half of this stream is me relearning Sketch as well. Oh, replace image. Okay, great. Then I can go into here. Do this one. Oh, that was the size of the image. Oh, sorry, I thought there was a mask on it. I just assumed there was a mask on it. Okay, so then we can check our understanding of putting the mask on. Great, okay. This is nice and colorful, and then we can have this be like... Yeah, half and half. Okay, cool. So how wide is the one on the left? Because this is too... No, I just want the mask. Because we want some nice spacing. Or the right hand side. Okay, great. So Let's update this a little bit. So rather than, let's see if we swap these over, because we're going to try and code this up. So let's see if we do that. Right. So when you're clicking on these things, so this section header here is a symbol that contains two underlying text blocks. So when you click on one of them, you only get the override for that one. Whereas when you then click over here on the entire symbol, over on the right-hand side, you get the override for both. So I actually want to try this out. See if I can just edit some of these words out before we... Oh, wait, what's happened there? Ah, okay, I've immediately started editing the wrong one. So now I have the, okay, so before you create your event, yeah, okay. For just trying to get it nice and short, and then maybe that can go. Oh, and that will disappear. Can you get, okay, just put a space in or something. Yeah, okay, fine. But then this could also be like, you could sort of say why. Before creating your event, tell us more about your organization. Because what I sort of want to articulate to the user here is like I have made a decision not to let you ad hoc create events that are just associated with your user account. They have to go through an organization. We just want a little bit of wording to sort of indicate that. And again, this is sort of this goes back to what I was saying about the sort of lack of diligence up front. All of this would, like, for a real app, you would have really sort of made sure this was baked in to your thinking about the product really early, but we didn't do any of that stuff. So what I want to say, like, before creating your event, tell us more about your maybe even organization isn't the right word, but again, and this could be where we sort of ask them for their details as well. And oh, well, sequencing wise, we can come back to this. So let's see. We'll show on your event pages, and it'll help people find your events. Cool. So then I think I would change this if we're not going for organization name. And then placeholder, but did we have one with prompt? Label and prompt, yeah, okay. See, oh no, we've only got the normal size one. Text with label large. I want text with label and prompt large. So there is a lot of legwork in having these, in making these symbols, but when they exist, they're super helpful. Like the idea of just swapping that out because you suddenly want a prompt to show. All right, well, I said last week we were going to do a bunch of these just to get this, like to make this actually useful, because there's a real like upfront cost that you have to pay to make sure that you're like, you have all the symbols and that you're maintaining them and they're up to date. Where is edit? Oh, edit source, here we go. But when you've paid that sort of toll, it's so good. Like, especially compared to like the back in the day version. So form control text large. form control with label with large, and then form control with label and prompt large. So we want to text with label, and prompt large. So in here are these symbols. Yes, we want to swap this one out for, this is the label, text control. So here we want just text large. Great. Okay. And then we want to put in this prompt, and field prompt is just a style, not, so we don't want to adjust the content on resize. We're going to paste that in here. And so we want to know that's a 7 gap. That's a 7 gap. Okay, so we think that's basically the same thing. And we do want to adjust the content on resize. It's vertical and it goes down. So this to this is 12. This to this is 12. Okay, fine. Again, I'm picking, so these values between the two, I'm picking really arbitrarily at the moment, because once it's in a symbol, we only need to come back and change this symbol. And then depending on how we do our view components or our CSS classes associated with these, presumably the view component will handle it. But if the view component matches these, it's just a changing one-to-one, so then they'll always change. We don't need to worry about if we come and adjust this up later, that being a huge deal. I mean, obviously, the more UI you build out with it, the bigger the impact of that potentially is. But I think that's fine in the short term. So let's go back, and we should now be able to swap this out. So we have text with label large. We should now have text with label and prompt large. It's changed width, but maybe that's just this. Okay, great. So this was just it pulling out. So then we can go and edit this. Edit source. And the difference is that this should be locked to the left-hand side. That's actually locked to the top as well, but I don't think that's the case. And we don't want to fix the size. I think we just want it to be full width. I think all of these are full width. Yeah. So maybe we then do want to lock it to, I don't think we want to fix the size. I think we want to lock it to the right-hand side so it would grow as the symbol grows. So these tools are really like providing responsive guidance to a symbol in the same way that you would use CSS on a element in the DOM. But that's my understanding of them. I might be way off, but that's sort of what I think they're for. So here, don't think we've got any overrides. Reset overrides. Oh, hang on, we do. Okay, undo that. So that's all gone back to the right place. I was looking for like the size one. Set to original size. And it's only the width that's changed. Great, that's sort of what I was checking. So here, this button is an arbitrary distance from the text box above it. But you might look to start to, like, how are you going to make sure that that is consistent everywhere? At the moment, we're not going to bother. But maybe there is versions of this where you build out little versions of the form that are consistently used to keep them consistent, or there's like a style guide that you sort of pull through. I am going to do so I don't know how much of this we're going to code up today, so we might be doing some view component stuff. So I'm going to do some stuff in Sketch and then hopefully turn these into view components. But it's hello, by the way, good morning. We are going to see how we get on. So we did, I don't think last week we got to turning anything into a view component, but that is the goal of where we're heading. But if we don't get there, we don't get there. Apologies. That's sort of the vibe on a Sunday morning. We might get there, we might not. All right, so I'm sort of going to keep skipping over. Like, is there anything for the organization that we actually need to know? I'm just going to ask for the organization name. So let's sort of work out what else we might need. So we're definitely going to need to tell us about you, because we've already got that in the flow. So if you remember, we have organization name test, some promo blurb here about fields we need for the organization, So realistically, what are they likely to be? If we're going to put all the friction of onboarding further up front, this could be a little bit about them. It could ask for their URL, could ask for a phone number. I mean, like usual contact details, could ask for social media links. These are all things that you're probably going to want to appear on your organization page. And I guess the most important thing that it might ask for, either on this step or the next one, is, and this is coming from the previous sort of version of this I built, like in the real world, not on live streaming, was we actually moved this, and we moved the friction of setting up a Stripe Connect account into this flow. So one of the things that we started out doing was allowing people to have accounts, and then they could create things, but they couldn't go live with them until they created their Stripe Connect account. And Stripe Connect, if you have used it, there's like Braintree has one, a bunch of other applications have one, like payment applications, where you as the code platform, you as the what do they call it? Like I think they call it a marketplace or something like that. You as the application, you don't take the money from the customer in the transaction. The merchant is in this case, it would be the organization. So what's an example of this? Could be something like maybe you are an e-commerce vendor or something like Shopify, or maybe a much smaller one. You can set up a service where you build e-commerce stores for people, but the money from the thing that the people buy, like they buy maybe I don't know, phones. They buy a phone, but the money goes directly to the merchant, to the organization that's using your software. However, as part of Connect, and usually as part of those other services, you can take a cut automatically through that service. So that's how we ran the finances for the previous event thing I was working on, or one of them. We would enable the transaction with the merchant, which in this case was the organization running the event, and then we would take our percentage off the top. So that's really different and has loads of implications that aren't technical to you taking the money and then giving the money to the organization later. So an example of that might be that we don't ask organizations for any Stripe Connect or equivalent or any kind of things like that. Maybe we just ask them for some bank details or something like that. And then you sell loads of tickets for an event, and you as the platform hold the money, and you then give them the money at a time of your choosing, on a schedule of your choosing, and things like that. Like there are actually sort of fewer technical implications of that, because that actually makes your life a bit easier, because unless you need to automate the distribution of money, which could be done manually, you actually only then have one-way transactions. It's like, hey, I want to buy these tickets, they're £10, I take £10, I am done. Whereas with something like Stripe Connect, you have that extra layer. It's like, right, I want to enable a transaction between this person and this organization for £10, and on the way through, I want to take this certain cut. But the bigger implications are like administrative, compliance-based, legal, all of the fun things that you sort of as an individual engineer potentially want to avoid, and on the product side have to spend your time doing. So let's say, for example, you are a platform that you send the money directly to the organization, and someone wants a refund for their ticket. Well, they reach out to you as the platform, or even it doesn't have to be tickets. It could be, hey, you go on Shopify, you buy something from a Shopify store, and then it doesn't work, or you just want a refund for any reason. You as the consumer go to Shopify and say, hey, I want my money back. And Shopify, like, we don't have your money. That's not how this works. Like, you need to contact the original organization. And they're really annoyed. They're like, oh, wait, well, they're using your software. You must be responsible in some way. And what has happened in all likelihood is that they have ticked a box with some terms and conditions in that says that they are not responsible for that, and you have done a transaction with the overall thing. So that's something that we have done, or that I have worked on before, a platform that has done that before. And that's all fine, by the way. Like, that's all good. Like, making a choice either way as to like whether you're going to take the money directly from the participants or the registrants of the organization versus setting it through to the organization. Like, they're just business decisions, but they have really big technical impacts. So tell us a little more about, I'm going to use like organization X as the, and then you can say, the more information you provide, for your audience to find you or something like that. I don't know if that's true. I'm just making that up as an existing one. So here it could be, what did I say earlier? I was like, oh, let's put in an email address. Let's just see how long we can make this form and see how far our UI design stuff goes. We've got email address, website. So then we get to decisions about like how we would scroll this. You'd maybe build a different smaller version for like Instagram and Twitter and things like that. So let's say email address and website will do for now. Yeah, I think you'd build a little cool custom one for Instagram and Twitter and social media things. So anything else if we... Yeah, that'll do. That's okay. So that's indicative. That's just contact details. Did we do any of this on the? It's the here. Yeah. So we've got like, what tickets do you want? Your details, more about you stuff. Okay. So we have done some design work around this. Oh, I see it. And on the left hand side, we put like a little summary. Okay, we're gonna come back and build that. Okay. So here, tell us a little more about organization X. So this would be, let's do another one as well. And then we'll do the user. Okay, we'll do that last step. So here we'll say, yeah, so I'm going to swap these images out. Just a note on that. So I've built a little flow out here with 4 steps. We'll swap those images out and then we'll actually go and see if we can code some of this stuff and make it interesting. But one of the things that we did previously was in that Stripe Connect version I was talking about earlier, we put it either like last or penultimate. I think we put it last. I think we sort of put it here maybe. But the one thing that we did was make sure that we put it after everything we needed to follow up with someone who had difficulty, like they'd ticked the right terms and conditions, they'd given us their contact details, whatever it was. So if you're going to place a lot of friction in the onboarding process, but it is a really valuable person, like your business or your app wants them, make sure that you have both collected their contact details and whatever permission you need to contact them before you insert that really high friction, because otherwise you're going to lose them. Whereas otherwise you could put in, let's say that here you ask for, which way, swap these around. So let's say here you ask them for their personal contact details. I think we only asked for the organizational ones. And they bail at the last step, or because you have to potentially send them off to Stripe or something like that to do their Stripe Connect account. you lose them, right? But you know that you have their details, you know that you have consent to contact them, and you know that they haven't finished the next step. So at that point, you can then just build an asynchronous process to go and email them or message them with whatever contact details you have, and bring them back. Or you could just do it by hand. Like someone could go through every day and just be like, hey, we saw that you were trying to do this thing. So the order of the where you place it, if we've made a decision to place the high friction element early on in the journey of trying to set up an organization, that is going to be like a potential customer of your application. If you're going to put the friction first, get it so that you can still run reclamation campaigns, like bring those people back. Because if you don't, and you put the friction first when they bounce out of that process, you've lost them. Potentially they never come back. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But why not give yourself a fighting chance? So that's always something that I think is really worth considering. Where's the friction in the process, and can we reclaim the person if the friction is too high this time around? Maybe it's not a problem for you, but it is something that I think I sometimes notice that I'm asked questions up front that I don't want to answer. Or the one I get these days a lot is you get asked to do something, and then you get those really crappy, annoying marketing popovers that they're like, hey, we did want you to take part in this survey or do something else, but like you then get like 3 questions about who you are and things like that. It's like, no, this is friction on top of a thing that isn't worth it, so I'm not going to give you this information. Whereas if they're trying to perform a task like book an event, or like organize an event, they probably have a slightly higher tolerance of what they are willing to do. So this one, okay, so let's say we put the stripe stuff last. So okay, so I'm just going to put a prompt here about that stripe thing because it was fun to do. Can you clone Instagram with Rails? Hello in the chat, by the way. I mean, probably. You can do pretty much anything in Rails. If that's a specific request for can I clone Instagram and Rails, that is probably not on the cards. But you could have a good crack at it because you can do iOS stuff. You could definitely build an amazing web version with it. And the iOS stuff, you can use all the fancy new stuff from Hotwire, I think is coming. I've already forgotten what that's called. Before you publish an event, we need to be able to send you money. Make sure you're ready. Click to your first ticket sales. Connecting a payment provider. Okay, so then this would then be some admin. And this was, I think they had actually a button. Let's go take a quick look. I think they had like Stripe Connect. They had a bunch of promo stuff. And it doesn't have to be Stripe Connect. Like I said, like there was a bunch of other alternative ones. I wasn't just in the chat. I wasn't trying to be dismissive of cloning Instagram with Rails. By the way, that's just a very large question for a Sunday morning stream. But if you are looking to do something like that, I do wish you luck. 'Cause that'd be a fun project. So manage your connected accounts. I was sort of hoping that this was going to be the promo for Stripe Connect rather than the docs, but there is a promo page somewhere. This one? Yeah, okay, cool. They changed all the pricing for this, yeah, so so what I found really cool about this actually, and this is a minor rabbit hole, but hopefully interesting, is this this kind of gradient of experience you could provide. So there's a bunch of stuff that you may or may not use that is under the hood using something like Stripe Connect or, like I said, Braintree, which is PayPal, have one. And you can make it totally white label so that the user never knows that under the hood it's Stripe. Or for like free, you can just make them set up a Stripe account. Like those I actually liked the idea that there was a gradient of that. So if you're charging people monthly, adding a couple of quid to your monthly charge, and that might pay for the extra engineering work to abstract it away totally. So like co-branding is a big deal. Otherwise, you just pass people off to Stripe and you get very little interaction with that experience because they're basically it's just a Stripe account they're setting up. What you can do, I don't know if this is still the case, but what you can do with the free version is like pass some pre-fill information across. So if you ask for the information like organization name or something like that, first name, last name, email address, things like that, you can basically say, hey, I think this user's about to set up a Stripe account. I want them to come back here when they're done. Like I want you to take them to the OAuth page to join these two accounts when they're done. But that's about it. And I think maybe you can send a logo through as well. That's about it. On these ones, this one, you don't need to send them anywhere. You can do everything on your platform. But you are then responsible for collecting all of the ID verification for payments. Like you have to do everything. And this one is like a halfway in between. That's my memory of this. But it was great. We had a really good experience. So yeah. So co-branded onboarding experience. So co-branded onboarding experience means you can put a logo on their sign-up page, on the Stripe sign-up page. That's what it is. And I thought this was great. Like, yeah, I really had a good good experience using this. But it's a real branding problem. Like if your organization has the money, you would probably pay to do the extra engineering on this one. But they had a button. So is there like any Stripe Connect button? Yeah, they had with standard accounts. Okay, here. So get started with Stripe. Maybe they don't have that branding stuff anymore because they're all their stuff sort of looks like this a bit now. It's more like just generic. Developer tools, financial service, multi-party payments. Because at one point, I think they wanted you to use their button. But maybe it doesn't matter. Let's go back and look for an image and see if... Right, it was one of the, like, yeah, these type of things. But this isn't their UI anymore, right? Like, this is not their jam. Although I do love these old school buttons. There's no, like... Can I just lift... Right, because this is what it used to look like. Yeah, I have no idea what this process looks like anymore. So this is that one here. Oh, here we go. Can I just grab this temporarily? Okay, we're just going to borrow this one. There we go. A bit tiny. We'll come back and build a proper one, but they had to click this button. And then there would be some sort of text that was like, hey, you can't... So I'm adding in the same friction here that I added in last time that I built one of these. For a couple of different reasons. One, I think it'd be really fun to go and see if we can build something out with that API because it was a lot of fun last time. I like Stripe's stuff in general. I think that it got really difficult to use after the PSD2 SCA, the secure customer authentication stuff came in, like having to work with all of like the payment intent stuff and then doing that around Stripe Connect got challenging. But that just is what it is. That's if you want to work at the lower level of, you know, transactions on the internet, then that's just there's a lot of compliance and stuff that you have to support. You don't have to do that. Like, and again, there's like the pay gem. I think maybe we could have a play around with that and see what they support for Rails. So we'll go and take a look at that as well. You need to go before publish your first event. Okay, great. So then we can say this can go over here. And so the queue there is like, hey, we're actually maybe not giving you another button. And this looks super rough, but we don't mind about that for now. So like there's no skip option maybe. So we don't have a back and forth on here. We don't have like a previous step. Maybe we could do that. So this one here, let's just jump back and let's just freshen up what we've got here. So this is email address. This one would be, what did we have? Name. And this one could be password. This could just be the one that we actually coded in if they don't have a user account. So we'll come back and do some wording in a bit. Updates for these. Distribute. There we go. So let's do some different pictures. So I think we're not too far away from actually coding this up. Go back to Unsplash. I sort of haven't, on like the tell us about you, I was sort of hoping yes, so like, okay, I quite enjoy that picture. I'm not sure we would use it on a sign up page, but I love his side eye. That's great. I would really like to use that in something. Yeah, I was sort of like I don't know why, but in my mind I had like one person and then a crowd behind them. Maybe like someone, if we do like a marathon of people running at the thing. Suppose all event stuff always is runners. Like gigs are more exciting because I'm never going running. I look at a picture whenever I go to an event website and see pictures of runners. I was like, oh, I'm not taking part in that event. Oh, I'll tell you what we have done though is I do quite like the idea of this one. Oh, so like it's all like fun style events, like fancy dress things like this. Oh, okay, it's interesting. I like how fancy dress is like also fancy dress. I didn't consider that. These are all really scary fancy dress. This isn't what I was looking for. Okay, I'm just gonna pick one up otherwise because I don't want to spend too much time on this. Although whatever I pick is bound to stick around for ages because I'm never coming back to this. So. That's fucking terrifying. Something like that would be fun. I mean, not to do, but like for a picture. Mm. I guess when people are facing away, does it make like the model release stuff easier? Does it make it easier to put the picture on here? Like I'm assuming all of these, they're on Unsplash. I'm assuming. Oh, I see. So they've made. Oh, so I see the photographer here is available for hire. So they've presumably signed off getting the photo included on here somewhere and got all the terms and conditions ticked. Because I think Unsplash is like legit, right? Like it's. I think Getty bought them. I think it's all like the rights are covered and stuff. That's my understanding anyway. Let's check that. All right. Okay. Let's pick out one of the. Yeah, because they have all these like ads for iStock and stuff, which I think Getty own as well. Yeah, I was sort of hoping. Let's go back to the ones we had earlier. None of these are any better. Yeah, I think I ended last week's stream by saying I would love to do like, oh, that's nice. Can you use that? Like, what are the rights? Free to use under the Unsplash license. Commercial and non-commercial purposes. Okay, cool. Has that model then signed, like, has that person signed off on that? Or is it one of those things where it's like you're in a place and it says, I actually really like that one. The trouble with that one is it won't work on horizontal ones because you need to keep, I guess you could keep the heart in frame and ditch the person's face. That seems a bit mean. Then you'd start drifting into the world of art direction, and anyone who works with designers, I'm sure, has many an hour of conversation around exactly which part of a photo should be in which part of a user interface. All right, let's grab this one as well because that's just fun and colorful. Yeah, so some of these crowd ones are a bit more like typical crowd stuff, like event stuff. Also, the downside of these for the app that we're talking about, going back to like the branding side of things, is if we're really talking about building an application that focuses on group events, you actually would want those images in here rather than any kind of specific person. Let's try and use that picture of that person making heart thing. So I want to do that. So tell us a little bit about you. So can we swap her out there? Will that do a swap out? Because that would be so helpful. Oh, it does. Yes, Sketch is great. Oh my God, that looks so good. That's so cool. That's a bit dark for me actually, but I really like onboarding. But we're just messing around. And let's see for these other ones. Plonk this one in here as well. I see, that's fun. That's nice and colorful. All right, so this is fairly arbitrary, but this is what we've got going on. Okay, so would we potentially just ditch the footer? So we could keep the header so we had some navigation, but say that the footer was the bottom of the page, maybe? Like just bring the whole canvas up to there. We say that right while you're in here, we don't have a footer. And this is like a totally siloed user interface. I mean, you could ditch the header as well and say that this is a sign up page. Like there would be a terms and conditions box in here somewhere, but during this process, you are siloed from everything else on the application. And that is very deliberate. And then sort of maybe not have any of those elsewhere. So any more siloed experiences. Okay, so how do we make this with view components, and do we, and does that help in any way? I even like the idea of it. Even if we ditch this, could we maybe keep these? These are always on like corporate business websites, having like little blobs of color for serving no purpose, just hanging around in the back somewhere. You can even have them like gently growing and things. Love stuff like that. It's so stupid. Yeah, I'm actually kind of into. Okay, so this is old school Slack onboarding, like I mentioned. No idea if they still do that. These could. Oh yeah, because this is what I said last week. Is that you could, as you transition between these pages, you could just have these move around each other, but they could CSS animate, so they could like just like little moving blobs. So this could be okay. This could be so I actually like this one the least now as an image, just because it's the least clear what's in it. But that's fine. And so you would get to here. Why am I not able to select those? There we go. You would get to here. And then effectively, what you could do is every time this user signed in, just try and get them to do this this high friction action until they don't allow them to create any events, don't allow them to do anything. So everything in the organization stems from having a valid Stripe account connected. So 100% friction up front, very high cost to people joining up, but very high reward, because you know at that point, if they've been willing to go through all those hoops, they are effectively sort of like in. Again, you can sort of decide where to put that friction. Maybe you let them set everything up and then connect the Stripe account. We tried both approaches on a previous application that I worked on with varying results for each and fun problems. One of the issues that you find with Stripe Connect is with organizations above a certain size, getting something connected to their finance is a huge business obstacle. So it's way easier to not do that. You can just pay them the money. And if they can receive money in, just like they're willing to hand out their bank account details, that's absolutely fine. But Stripe Connect gives people more power over things like they have to put in their ID and have all these things that happen. So it's actually way, way, way easier if you take the money and then just hand it off to them. But there are different financial implications for that for the platform, because you're then taking the money. There's like different, you're just making a different type of transaction. So this is like all of the fun, good stuff around event applications that is fun in a like an interesting business side of way, but was also a complete pain in the butt if you just want to make coding stuff. So view components and Rails and UI in general. How are we going to do this? We could do a bunch of different stuff here. I think I'm just tempted to make these 4 separate pages. So we could do everything smart and like make this an example of these things swapping out based on the state of the underlying model. I think that's more likely to be useful here when we get to the bit where we're asking people to fill in ticket details for multiple people, where on the right-hand side is likely to be a turbo frame and have the details of the overall booking update automatically when they save this. So I think that's where I want to sort of get into that pattern. Here, I think we're just talking about, I think these are just normal forms in UI, and what we're really talking about is any view component to make our formatting more consistent, make our forms more consistent, which was painful around forms, so maybe we have to lean on CSS for that, and to make our branding, like formatting and branding more consistent. And then also I think we spoke about like Flexbox versus CSS grid for this page layout. If we were to try and if we wanted to transition it later, how would we do it? Like we wanted to swap over these to the order of these two. and any performance implications of that. I think let's go do this, because we've sort of got this here. So this page here is going to be this page here, right? And then, oh no, wait, sorry, I've got back one. This page here, so getting started, is this one. Then a few more details is this one. So we'll tell us more about Organization X. Great, there's nothing on here at the moment, so that's this one. Tell us more about you. That's this one. So that's name, email address, and password. Putting some stuff in there. And then maybe this one, maybe not. Maybe, because after this we could just send them to the... this is where we would decide where to put that friction and whether we wanted to do it at all. Okay, so let's look at what we've got at the moment for this. Let's close some of this stuff down. We were looking at seed data stuff. This was in our organization setup. Remember, we talked about using that, like, I call it a setup pattern, but it's like a wizard or whatever you want to call it. And we've got organization details and users. Oh, right. The first one was actually in the organization's controller, right? So this is because it's just creating the resource. So we have a component called single column layout component, which is this centered version here. And so let's sort of start arbitrarily doing stuff. Work out the best way to get what we're looking for. So we've got, I'm just doing everything with divs for now, just to sort of get us something. So here we could then have, I'll just put it in style tags. We're not going to work out, we don't even know where this stuff is going to go, let alone what it's going to do. So we could do, the downside is I don't get autocomplete on that, so I can't remember any of the API. Flex direction, I think. Row? I'm going to have to pull up the docs. I can't. Oh, I actually think maybe we should start with grid. I'll just put the CSS tricks. Oh, no, I don't want versus grid. No, sorry, that was the wrong one. Just put the CSS tricks bit at the top. Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. Basics and terminology, properties. They're like a little skip to. Okay, yeah, I can read these from here. I'll just zoom in a bit. So it's row for flex to... what's happening? I think that's a very large image. Oh, I see. When you click on it. Okay. Oh, okay. Right. I just want to... I'll just use this. So flex direction row is what we want. And by default, they'll fill 50-50, or do we have to give it flex, shrink and flex grow? Do we do in here? Can't remember this one. Flex grow 1. And in here we'll put like image. Okay, so then let's refresh this. No, I'm on the wrong step, aren't I? Okay, great. So this is now half and half. Let's put some... Okay, so draw some pink boxes around it so we can see it. Oh, so it's not half and half. Okay, so we actually have to specify... Yeah, okay, so that's fine. So in here we can presumably do height. But height needs to be within something that knows what's that within. What does body not have? Let me bump into this somewhere else. There we go. Okay. And then we had like a global. Is that good? I can't remember any of this. Is that a good idea? HTML like 100%. I want an answer from like after 2008. Here we go. But I'm not setting min height, I'm just setting height. Right, okay. What was the ideal height setting for a full responsive page? For years, the answer was HTML height 100%. Well, that's just what I've done. The modern solution is simplified. Body, min height, 100 view. Oh, vertical thingies. Viewport height, sorry, yeah. Page height may activate the horizontal scroll bar when. But doesn't this solve the same thing? I'm gonna leave that because I think it works. Oh, is this the issue that they were talking about at the end of that article where suddenly the scroll bars are there? Page height may cause a horizontal scroll bar. So I knew there was a reason that I wanted this anymore. How to set the set the page for full width? Maybe just don't. Not setting a width in the HTML. Okay, let's try. Okay, so let's try body min height 100 VH. Let's try that one as the alternative solution. I love how this is like so. But I don't want it all the time. Maybe there's a class that we just put it on for just for this layout. That actually hasn't worked for me because the thing isn't 100% high. Okay, that was working and now isn't. So I've definitely broken something by. Oh, wait, what? Okay, so why is this not HTML? It's not, oh, down here? It's not getting that property. Oh, wait, is there an error and it's just not showing it? No, it seems to be. But that totally worked. do like... Just check the CSS is working all together. No, that's not firing. Although I actually don't know if you get... Yeah, that's not firing at all, is it? A server broken? Let's turn it off and turn it on again. As good a check as any. No, okay, that's kind of weird. I'm assuming something in here is broken. And that's making the CSS not render. Oh, wait, did I just fix it previously? Oh no, okay. So inside reset is being called. Let's try body background color red. No, okay, something is off. My style sheet's not being imported there. Okay. That's weird. What happens if I put this here? Oh, okay. Wait, I'm really not understanding what's happening there. Did we change where this stuff is? That's all of that stuff. Did we break all of this recently? We could easily have done. But all of the stuff for the components is coming through here. And that's pulled through here. Right? Okay, I'm definitely missing something important here. I am missing something important. What am I missing? I'm changing CSS files, or what I believe will SAS files that will generate our CSS file. Oh, wait, I'm not running the extra tab to build these. This one? Yes. Okay. Right. I'm an idiot. Okay. I think I'm just not running the server in the correct way. Right. And this is because of all of the stuff that we now do. Okay. Yeah. I think I've just not been doing that properly because... Right. Okay. Great. Everything's red and blue. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Totally forgot that we had done all of that work because we then never did anything with it. So, click through to get started. That's still red because I also added it in here, which can also go. Sorry about that. That was a total issue on my part. I forgot that was a thing. Okay, great. So now we have HTML as 100% height. Body presumably also needs to be 100% height. Okay, so that gets you the full width thing, but then it also kicks in this side scrolling thing. which if you take this out and refresh, that goes away. Okay, so that's why it was a pain in the ass, because it kicks in the scrolling every time on all devices. Okay. Let's try the min height thing that we had, which is this one. See if this one does the same thing. Oh, neither of those work. So let's see if this one does this. Okay, so this end was, okay, we're learning a lot here. I think we're learning why this layout might not be ideal. That is not doing anything at all. So body min height 817. So setting the height and the min height. Okay, that one. So that one's on it. So it's not necessarily just the min height. You also have to set the height as well by the looks of it. Okay, the trade-off is probably not worth it to always have those things on the left-hand side. So what was the problem when any element, not just here, is set to 100 viewport widths units? But I'm not using width, I'm using height. Oh no, it's no, it's only saying a vertical scroll bar. So what happens if this is like 99? Oh, okay. Okay, that's not bad, actually. That moved. What happens if you set this to like 95? See, this is what we're doing this for. Random arcane bits of browser-based knowledge. Okay, so the thing kicks in somewhere down there. So maybe the version earlier where we did have the footer. Would be better, and we just said, right, this is a minimum of whatever height is on the right. Okay, so let's say we take these off then. I really miss this, doing this kind of stuff, which is like just sort of nuts and bolts. Hey, how do we want to lay this out? So in here, we're going to say, again, I'm going to use an arbitrary div here. We're just going to see what we like and don't like. And we're going to put some margin above this. So we're going to say there's always going to be like an amount of spacing before the content on the right hand side, and that'll change based on the the viewport size. But it could always be there. Okay, so this should bump this down a little bit. That's quite a lot. Okay, great. So then we could also say we'll make the bottom the same thing. So that then gets you how big is the thing on the left. And then maybe it's never a full screen image. It's just a cool looking image. And at some point around an arbitrary width around here, or this isn't actually 50%. Or maybe this is where we could play with the grid one and get like a gutter width that it couldn't go below. It would wrap around and swap over. Yeah, that's actually that could be pretty cool. So you still get your giant image, but it doesn't fill up the whole screen, but it's just the more information you ask for, actually, let me, yeah, it's 0. And then as you zoom in, you get cooler bits. Okay, cool. I quite like that. Is this a thing? Do people do this? Maybe it's not 50-50. Maybe it's like 40-60 or something like that. Something like that. So it's just a cool image up here. But what I want to look at then is the CSS grid. Okay, and I had to... So we've done this before. Thank you to whoever wrote that article, by the way. I appreciate you having some stuff that was on freecodecamp.org, and it was from Dave Gray. So shout out to people writing up good stuff on the internet. Let's try and do this again, because I've forgotten absolutely everything I learned last time we did it, but it was great. It was really good. It did exactly what we wanted to do. And now I'm just trying to remember what we now want it to do. So here we actually only have 2 things. Like we have 1 row, 2 columns. Okay, yeah, I've forgotten about all of this. I would love to do just spend time building a really complex layout with this, because it looks really good fun. So we've got 2 columns in a row, and you end up with... Yeah, the track is the bit in between, right? Where's like the terminology? Important terminology, okay. Grid container, grid item, grid line, grid... no, track is a... Alright, grid container, grid item is direct descendants. Grid cell is the bit... okay. Grid line is that grid track. The space between 2 adjacent grid lines. Right, okay, so it's... Okay, so grid track is just a consistent line. Grid area. But what's like the guttering called? Or is that within the grid line? Yeah, okay. The value represents the track size, and the space between them represents the grid line. But you can specify... non-flexible spacing. Right, okay. Grid template areas. Template, okay. So I'm sort of looking for like, hey, I want between this... I don't know, we could do this with Flexbox, but I was sort of going to say... So between this and this, I want this spacing here to always be... Oh, maybe we just do it with Flexbox. This bit here to always be consistent. Here we go, gap. Maybe this is what it specify the size of the grid lines. Okay, you can think of it like setting the width of the gutters between the columns and the row. That's sort of where I was going with. So values, line size, length value. So column gap and row gap. Okay, so let's see if we can build one with Flexbox and then the next one with CSS Grid and see which one we like and don't like. So we've got organizations new, we use Flexbox, right? Then on the next one is organization details new. So we've got 2 versions of basically the same page. And I want to, oops. There we go. Okay, so let's say here, We can do the same thing. We're just going to have, so we know, and this is where ViewComponents is cool. So ViewComponents like this is always going to be consistent no matter what. We don't need to worry about that. But, and all we're doing inside this, inside the component, inside the render call, is just defining the content that goes into it. But we don't really care what's in here. That's always going to be consistent. So we don't want display flex. We're going to do display grid. And I figure the more I do this, the more it'll start to stick in my brain. Display grid. Okay. Like that's the terminology. Is there like some examples? Okay, let's open this. Container display grid, and then I want. Oh, you set everything on container. Okay, so we're gonna have column. Grid template areas. Defines a column and rows. So template defines a column within a separate. So it's called a template, but it's not like. Grid template, a shorthand for setting grid template. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, let's do them by hand. So let's do grid template columns. And this, I think, is what I want. So in here, let's just move these down. I think so. FR is like like a percentage, right? Like what's FR stand for? Fraction. Just made that up. Fraction. Okay, the FR unit of fraction can be used when defining grids like any other CSS length. For one fraction, so it's like whatever's left over, right? Okay, so here we could say this one in between is gonna be. What do? You set this to like a fixed percentage? So in here, we then actually want to do the same thing we did before, I think, and put a div here with placeholder image, and then this div on this side will contain a column layout. So what we did on the Flexbox side is we set 40 and 60, and what we would have to do is then put some padding or spacing within one of these or both of them. But I think here this is going to create the idea of this 40 pixels appearing as if by magic. Maybe that's not right. I've forgotten if we actually need to do anything there. So we're just going to make these like purple lines. And then we can say, right, this is the Flexbox one here, and then on the. Okay, interesting. So let's just put one next to the other. So this is Flexbox, pretty much what we want. Grid. Okay. Something funky has happened here. And is this because we haven't got something to represent our 40%? So do we just need a 40 pixels, sorry? Do we just need an element that represents that spacing? Okay. Right, maybe. Okay, so that has now worked, I think. So this is always going to be 40 pixels. But we could also presumably change that to be like 5%. Okay. But if we changed it to 1 FR, there would be 3 equal columns. Great. Okay, cool. So that's fine. So then responsive wise, you could presumably adjust this as you needed to, although a percent would get you there probably quick. Okay, I've already broken that. Oh wait, I removed the div somehow. Sorry. 4% div. Okay, so you need a corresponding element, I'm assuming, for each of the template column grids. Okay. This is height 100. But we haven't given our body 100, so actually that can go. It doesn't matter because we've got the same problem here. It doesn't matter that you're 100% of something if the thing itself is only growing to your height. Yeah, same thing here. But we could then do the same thing as we did before here and give this one like make it the height that we want it to be. And then I can go back there. Great. Okay, so... Oh, that's interesting. Right, okay, so now that these 3 things themselves are controlled by this... Oh, I just didn't put an interstitial. Oh, okay, I could have done the same thing over here. I just didn't put it. Sorry, I've done it differently. So I will do it the same. Just go back a step. Take that outline out. Here, I've just added in that div as an extra div. You could do it either way, I guess. Right, okay, yep. So that's now... Oh, did I break the other one? Yes. Okay, sorry. Right, okay, there. Okay, so they're different sizes and shapes, but that's I haven't set that up to be the same. So this one is 40 and 60. So in here, do you then do like if it's a fraction, but you've already got 4% removed, do you start to do like... I'm sort of doing them like, do you then, so we got 96. Okay, so is like this, I don't think this makes any sense. But is this the sort of thing that you do? Does this have to get to 100? I guess not. But does that work? Yeah, okay, it does kind of work. Okay, because they're fractions. You just need it, so it gets to 100, great. That's actually really cool. So I really like the idea of this spacing unit being... So, okay, so then let's... Okay, so let's... Okay, let's again, we're going to stay all in one file just because we're not going to worry about this too much being persistent. And we're going to call this one grid container just to... Cool, so it's the same thing. So then in here, we can then have this as actually the one that happens on desktop. So I'll just pick an arbitrary value for this for now. Let's just say that for now. Well, let's do an iPad one. So let's do 7, 6, 8 and up. And then everything below that. Let's do this. Let's copy this, but we don't need this here because that will already be defined on the basic one. Cool. And so this one then shifts, right? So then you actually want grid row columns. So we haven't bothered to do this on the Flexbox one, but we would need to flip the flex direction because we would want them to become vertical on narrow viewports. So here we have display grid. And is it grid row columns? Okay, that can go. Grid template columns. Oh, wait, I really swapped out the wrong word there. Grid template rows. And this now makes no sense because these wouldn't potentially be fixed width. Does that work? So here we have these. Yes. Okay, amazing. Right, now, that's really funky, but again... so here I've lost my spacing between the two. Why have I lost my 4%? Is it because we now don't have a height? Do I have the same problem that I had with when I was trying to set it to be full height? If I do this to make it... Okay, so that now doesn't... Oh no, I think might have cocked up my... Right, no, I think I've just broken my layout. That's a div there. That's a div there, that's a div there, that's a div there. Yes, okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. No, I think that's right. Why is that indented weirdly? That's 1 on its own. That's 2 all on its own. That's 3 on its own. Why does this one not have a height? What does it say when we push it to here? Oh, it still doesn't get a height. Let's do... Oh, interesting. That actually doesn't get anything set on it at all. Okay, so that's fine. So here, if we then say that the body... Let's set a height on here. Just make it that bit bigger. Hopefully it's slightly legible. So setting 100% there, and then we'll set 100% on the HTML as well. No, we still don't get our 4%. Okay, so something is different about that. Let's go and see. Grid template rows. Oh, because we have row gap and not column gap. Is that it? Oh, hang on a second. Maybe I've done this the wrong way anyway, because I haven't set column gap and row gap. So maybe... Right, hang on. Maybe I've done this wrong. So maybe I don't need this to exist. Hang on a second. So maybe I need that. And column gap is 4%. And this goes away. And here it's row gap. And again, I've arbitrarily picked 4%. And this one goes away. Ah, okay. Right, that's it. Okay, so I was wrong earlier. You don't need a corresponding element here. I just had set this incorrectly. So I had set it right, and then I imagine what has then happened is I set it to 4%, but there was no content in there. So that's why it was 0 heighting, whereas now I've specified it as the gap between 2 rows. So here we could like double, or like we could make this 10%, and this would get really high, but not affect that spacing. Okay, that's super cool. So is it now, if you've got a layout this simple, is it now just a preference as to which one we prefer? Like, is there a, like I'm achieving basically the same thing. I think I would definitely stick with the grid one because of the spacing being something that I set specifically, whereas on grid I have few options as I would understand it. I could either insert another element to represent the space, which would be represented in the row or column, but it is a real element that has its own, you know, has its own properties. Or I could set margin or property or any other spacing type I want on the elements that make up the row or column in the grid. And then I would need to do, like, this one could be like padding left or something like that. But you end up with all the usual problems, which is that then knocks your content over. So you actually need to do padding on both sides, which maybe you want, maybe you don't. And on this one, it would be padding right and stuff like that for any content there. Whereas all of that goes away on this side because this spacing is abstracted away. And this element here, the one that actually contains my content, that's all it cares about. Like, I can actually let it run to the edge of that element because I know that it will never touch that. So if we take, let's go and get, let's go and get a picture. So this one, so can we make exportable to a JPEG so we can compress it down a bit. I don't know if we want that one, but like, let's try this. So we can push this right down. Again, maybe do it at a higher level and actually compress it via your CDN or something like that. But let me get progress so we can just want it nice and blurry to start with. That's fine. So we can have red parasol in crowd from behind. And I don't normally rename that layer, but we're not too fussed about that right now. So that has been exported somewhere. Yeah, okay, great. So I can then hopefully drop that into images. Okay, cool. So I've forgotten which one we're doing here. This one. Is that an image or is that a background image on that element? We don't need it to have an alt attribute because it doesn't affect the actual content on the page. So we don't care that a screen reader can't pick it up because we wouldn't put an alt attribute on it anyway because it's not telling the person viewing the page anything about it. It is literally a branding thing that says it's a picture of an umbrella or parasol. No one cares. So I think giving it, I think making a background image solves our problem. Although these days, I'm assuming that's not... Can I go and explore that as well? Because that would be an interesting like problem to look into. So I want to have an image that's clipped or cropped completely based on the surrounding element changing size and shape. CSS image as cover. Object fit. Okay, I knew there would be a way to do that these days. Pardon me. So and let's I'm assuming this is like totally everywhere now, like everything is everywhere now, like I'm of an age where that wasn't always the case, but yeah, okay. So we're not supporting IEs, so that's fine. And it seems to go back a long way. These are back in the day. Okay, so we're fine with that. Okay, so let's actually put it as an image then. Let's not do it as a background image. Let's say that it is here, and it is... I can't remember how to get the asset pipeline that we... Well, I can't remember what even asset pipeline we're using for images. Is it sprockets? Genuinely, I can't remember. Rails... Asset pipeline. I'm assuming I'm just doing like image tag asset path. It's like the basic thing. How do I get a picture? I know we did a bunch of stuff on this a little while ago on the stream, so I apologize for anyone watching this being like, what are you talking about? Oh, whoops. Image tag. And then you just pass the path? Okay, great. Okay, is this going to work? Copy relative path, but I don't think I need any of that stuff. I think I can... Oh, do I need images? Or can I just do this? I think I might need images because it's in app assets images. Right, let's try that. But in here, okay, so we can then set on here. We want style. But we're in Rails, aren't we? Is it like that? And in here we can say width 100%, height 100%. The thing that we want, we'll have a height because the other one's got margin heading. And then in here we can do object it cover. No idea how that works, but let's go and find out if that does anything at all. Image tag. Oh, it's image tag, sorry. Image tag, there we go. Oh, and I can take out my little bit of text there. Let's see what that does. The asset image is... Okay, so that's fine. Maybe I don't need this. Or maybe we're about to go hunting for that asset. No, okay, great. Okay, cool. Right, so it's put the entire image in because the height of this element is not constrained. So if we go in here and say to our parent container, which is this thing here, max height 500 pixels, it will correctly not morph our image, but it has corrected it. So that is exactly what we want. But it is saying, I'm not constrained as to how high I can be, so you can make me the whole thing. And that, interesting. Okay, so that could be a real trade-off between... Oh no, it does stay the same height as the one next to it. It is the height of one next to us. I think it is doing what we want. Yeah, great. So then as the one to the right of it grows, it just grows to fill the... Just grows to fill the size. That's pretty... What's all this? What's happening here? Wait. What? Where's all this space coming from? Did I just not notice that earlier? Okay, so that is... Something's gone wonky there. So grid, grid, grid. Oh. So it doesn't turn the row... Right, okay. So I want to... Right, hang on. Okay. So I've set these... But not turned... So I want... How do I say none? I want like one FR, right? Because I had it as 3 rows, and then I transitioned it to 3 columns. So I've actually set a default here, and then I want the row gap, although there wouldn't be one, so I guess I might not need to reset that. So let's do this. Cool. Okay, that fixes that. Okay, so just to clarify what happened there, it was my CSS ordering. So I was setting the template rows. Am I doing these the right way round? They must be, because they're coming out the right way. Right, because columns... Right, yeah. So in Flexbox, you say the layout is column. On the desk, on the no, flex direction row. No, grid template row. Yeah, because, okay, fine. No, we just never did the other one. Flex direction row would put them all that way. Whereas display template row is defining the rows. So when you're talking about rows here, we're talking about vertical layout. Right, okay, yeah. So I set this property here, but I didn't unset it when the media query kicked in. So then I still had the same number of rows. And it was using... These are just fractions. So the reason it had all that space below is it was basically saying, well, I know how tall I have to be because of all the content inside these. So then I will then say that's 38.4%. I therefore know to add on the rest of the percent. I don't think... If that's fixed, I guess you then don't need these to take that 4% into account, right? Like this is 40 and 60 of what's left after 10, which is what I was calculating anyway. So I was actually getting it wrong because I was calculating it as if you start at 100, take 4 out and still have 100 left. But that's not what this is. This is start with 100, take 4 out, and we will then... This is defined based on what's left, I think. It's roughly the same. It's roughly the same. Okay, so I wasn't too far off. Okay, cool. So we've got rid of that weird thing, although we do still get this spacing because our image, when pulled that wide, goes really long, and we haven't told it to have a constraint about how high it should go. And that's like an aesthetic choice, right? Like we could decide that we don't ever want to scroll in this, but that was what I was saying earlier, is what we could do is not have this as an image tag. So let's try this the other way around. I'll just comment that one out temporarily. But we're going to duplicate it and do it another way and see what we get out the other side. So let's duplicate this part here. Oops. And so this time we're gonna say we want image URL. Is it image URL or is it asset URL? It might let me do both. And in here we can say background image URL. And we can spit this out with this. Then we can do background, size, cover. And the rest of this can go away, I think. Does that then work? Right, okay, great. So, but you can then do background position. I think center will do both. Okay, cool. So what's the difference between those two things, right? Hello in the chat. After PHP, I was a little shocked at how differently Ruby deploying. Well, that's a whole other, yeah, that's a whole other ball game. Okay, so what is the difference between the two options that we had here? One is the image itself is content within that element, right? So when we then told it to do object fit cover, it did exactly what we wanted it to do, and it wasn't getting distorted as this element got shorter, but it was saying, hey, when you get wider, I'll just fill the available space. It wasn't chopping itself off at the same height and matching that one. I wonder if what did I do? Contain, I did cover. I wonder what, fill will distort. What does contain do? This replace content. The replace content is scaled to maintain its aspect ratio while fitting within the element's context box. It's made to fill the box or present it. Oh, okay. So maybe contain will do the same thing. So we've got two versions of this now. So now let's comment out, and this one works exactly as I think I would like it to visually, but the trade-off is that the image isn't an image tag. We can't give it alt text. We can't, like, it is the background property of the container. It is not an element on the page, like which is different. You can't right click on it and click like save as or whatever it is. Okay, so let's comment this one now, because we might decide that we want to have the image in the page, but maybe it's the object fit one that's let's try contain. Let's see if what that gives us. We'll go back to our tab. No, it does still overrun. We would have to define the height of our container element here. This one isn't. Yeah, that's fine. So what does the other one do? I can go contain, cover, fill. The object will be stretched to fit. Okay, so let's try fill. And again, these are all doing. Okay, so that one distorts, so that's not the one we want. So contain. No, contain chops off. So cover, I'm pretty sure is the one we want, because cover does this. So cover works great, and we could work around this, I think, of it growing too long by just assigning a specific height to the container. But we don't actually need this in the page, so I think we could actually just default to the other one for now. If anyone knows any other trade-offs of doing it this way, then let me know. But other than that, I think we can swap for this one and sort of get what we want, which is match the height of the thing on the left. So if we take the other outlines out, will that sort of tell you how long the page is visually? And the single column layout is the thing that's providing that. Yeah, so there you're sort of being told how long the page is by how long the image is, i.e. it's not very long. And maybe you could do stuff around that, but maybe that's what you want. Maybe it's not what you want. These are all just fun tools that we can now play around with. So way less constrained than it used to be. And then we go back to that same problem of like, do we want it to fill the thing vertically? Because we got that little scroll bar on the right. Could we put the footer back in now? This is not high enough. Do we actually want to make these get adjusted a little bit? But then this hasn't got any content in yet. So let's drop back a section. So this is the same thing. So let's grab our image from step 1. And do the same thing. So we're going to make this a JPEG. 70%. We're going to say runner on stairs from behind. So we're going to save that. We're going to chuck that in the same directory. And we can basically do the same thing potentially. It would be this one, wouldn't it? We can lose the outline, I think. Let's just set it at 0. That can go. And we don't need any content in there. Oh, but we didn't replace the image. Okay, so that's just a picture of someone's ass because we haven't we haven't really done. So that's not panned out as well quite, so it looks a little bit better here. We kind of get the point. But this is fun because now we're sort of in the weeds of it, right? Like I think based on these two in terms of authoring, I would go with the grid layout based on what I know so far, but I really haven't played with grid, so I don't know if there's anything biting me or any other reason that I would really need to potentially consider using Flexbox over it. What? When we looked earlier, that actually was one of the grid versus Flexbox. And my memory is there was some performance preference of using grid, but I think that might have been at like a complex scale. The simple question to ask yourself when deciding between grid or Flexbox is, do I only need to control the layout by row or column? Or do I need to control the layout by row and column? Well, I only need to control it by row, but content out or layout in. In addition to the one-dimensional statistics, there is another way to decide if you should use works from the content out. An ideal use case is when you have a set of items and want to space them out evenly in a container. You let the size of the content decide how much comes rep onto a new line, then we'll work out the spacing. Grid works on layout in when you and then you place items into it. You're allowing the auto placement rules to place the grid. Interesting. Yeah, I think I would. So basically, it's dealer's choice in terms of which one you use. We've already seen on the FR, the fraction unit works to assign the proportion of available space in the grid container to our grid tracks. Very similar behavior to the flex properties. If we look back at the example, Oh, okay, there's loads of consideration. I mean, this is such a simple layout. I'm basically asking like a kind of a silly version because these are all like the people doing proper layouts. All right, cool. So let's go with the grid one just because it'll be fun. Okay, so do we then turn that layout into a view component that we can use elsewhere? Is that a good idea or is that a bad idea? And actually, it should just be some CSS properties. Like this whole thing actually then is a view component that accepts an image to use on the left and some content to use on the right. I have no idea if that's a good idea or a bad idea. But let's build it anyway. Okay, so we have one for layout. Okay. So let's sort of give that a try. Okay, well, we're experimenting with stuff. Let's sort of give this a try. So we've got one called single column layout component. So this could be like, it's like a promo, like a big promo image on the left, right? And the idea would be is that you could then have one component and you could play with however you wanted that image on the left to behave. The downside being is that you would almost always need it to behave this. Well, maybe that's the advantage of the components. You then can't diddle around with it for different steps. So we could call it what do they call them when they have like it's not promo or banner or something, is it? It's like like design departments and marketing departments always have like fun names for stuff. For like the big cover image. Yeah, I can't remember. It's like cover photo full page call. No, I mean, it's not column, is it? I don't know what else to call it. That'll do. Like, I don't because we can come back and rename it. So in here we then end up with our component, which is the same as in here. We're not going to do anything with it. We're sort of using this for visual like visual purposes. And again, maybe this isn't how we should be using these. Anyone is ever watching this and wants to tell me, because I don't use these at work, so I don't have a project where we're actually sort of using these in anger, as it were, like in real life. So we then do that, and then we want one that is a layout. And then we can do one that is SAS, but then we now have to do these by hand because we couldn't work out a way to do this automatically. So that now has to go in there. All right, so that's SAS layout, 3 files and a change in the SAS file. So these are now going to take over from our pages. So let's start swapping things. Oh, let's make that empty and save it. So close that. And we're gonna go with our grid version. So we can actually close our Flexbox version for now. We can come back and sort that out. Well, let's rename this then. So let's rename this to cover photo full page layout. And I'm naming it based on the component. I don't know whether that's a good idea or not, but it is what it is. And that is going to be our root thing, so that we can take out the style tag and all of, all of this can go in our SAS file that we just made. I can live in here. Okay, so that's our SAS. So we then have this goes in our, we can close the Ruby file, right? Because we're not going to actually need any logic. So that can go in here, and this is our cover photo full page layout container element. Right, so that is taking all of the CSS that we had on our parent element from before. So then we want our left-hand side element. Let's just lift and shift that all together to start with. However, we don't need this outline of purple. And we don't need it to be style tags. Although I've been putting Sass in here, but because we're sort of using CSS variables, you could just do like, I don't think we're not really using Sass a lot, certainly not in a simple layout, so you could do it without it, I guess. Whatever. Because you could just put a style next and you're sending, or whatever. So in here, we could just call this. I'm just going to stick with the BEM stuff. So this could be cover container. And this is always the same, I think. And it's the styles from here. They've gone. And then this has to stay. But what we pass in is actually now an attribute that we pass into the component. So do we have this component generate the full path? No, I think we pass it a URL, right? So here this becomes cover image URL. And maybe we are going to do stuff with the Ruby. So you actually have to pass that into the component. Oops. Does that work? Just made all of that up, maybe? Whatever. So, but in here we could say, we could actually start trying this out, right? So let's in here put a quick thing, but just give it height, just an arbitrary number there, just so we can see this be of a given height. And so this all gets saved. But on the page where we're actually using it, which is here, we now want to start doing things. Yeah, okay, so I've also forgotten this one here. We need to also go in here. So that all goes away. That all goes away. That all goes away. And in here, you pass in here. And all that goes away as well. And here, we say whatever the image path thing was. Like that? It'll be a miracle if that works. Oh, totally worked. Okay, that's pretty good. So, cool. Okay, so that has pulled the asset correctly. It is using our CSS from our component. Okay, so there's a lot of heavy lifting there, but it sort of worked. Right, now, where is our... More importantly, where is our content? Oh, I didn't save. There's our content. Great, so in here, we can now swap this out. And so this is then going to be content container. And that means that we can go over to our SAS. And in here... Oh, in here we actually don't care about that. I think we only care when it goes to full height that we want. Something like that. We lost our, I'm going to say we lost our pink box there. There we go. All right, so then we can, oh, why have we got a problem on our right-hand side? Okay, so, okay, fine. Oh, well, this sort of negates my point around, having that pixel spacing there. When you don't have a box around it, it's actually not obvious that this actually is centered. And so you could... Well, we have a bunch of options. We could... Let's just check that this goes to rows as well. Okay, so I think we do want a minimum height of this. Oh, and can we swap the order on grid? That was the other thing that we could do on Flexbox. So could we put that image below that? So on Flex, we have Flex order. Let's just play with that as well. Because I'm assuming we can say... Can you reverse the order of these? Oh, this is... So on CSS Flexbox, you can do... Where do you do the order of them here? You specify the order, or can you not... do like which order they're rendered? So row reverse. Can you do any kind of reverse here? Or maybe not, because like if I wanted to swap that footer and that header. Okay, so CSS grid swap order, change order. Oh, grid layout provides multiple methods for rearranging grid items. I've listed 4 below. Oh, they do have an order property. The order property in grid layout does the same as in flex layout. Could just use that one then. Order. Okay, so we could say here. Content container is the one below. Okay, so in the CSS, which is here. Common container and content container. So this could be order 1. Or maybe this one is always like, just do this. Is that enough? You can't remember what it would take to get that swapped over. So do they both need an order property and the other one is higher than the other one? So this is content container, which has no order property set, has nothing set. Here, if we were to do order 1, and then on the other one to do, oops, go back. On the cover photo one, to do order 2. Okay, great, that would swap. Okay, cool. So we could say, this one is order 2. And this one is order 1. So actually, do we need this one, or could we just do order 2 and the other one would automatically know? I don't know the answer to that. Oh, okay, yeah, maybe. Oh, cool. Okay, so you can swap. Okay, of course you could just swap them over. But I actually want like that. We actually need to swap this back over, so we actually do need to. Okay, so you can do that however you want. And then in here, cover container, we could do like min height. Oh, this one is like the rest of the rows, right? Like we just want, like, could you just do that? Okay, did not like that. Oh, okay. What? Oh, because it's just not very high. Okay, so would then this be like, could you do that? You say it's always 4 times higher? Yes, okay, apparently you can. Okay, cool. Can you say it's like the remaining viewport height? I guess not. Because that's not the parent height that you're working with. So here you're just saying it's a relationship, so okay. But you're gonna have to scroll down to see that. But this could be like, could you do 100? I guess what I'm sort of asking is like, can I have one row that just is itself? That is just like, what are the properties of that? It's just like, I'll be as high as my content, and then the other one just fills what's left. So what are the value types of grid template rows? Value and name. So what is value for grid template row? Can be a length, a percentage, or a fraction of the free space in the grid. Ah, min content. What's that? Oh no, it's min. What's min content? Min content, the minimum size of the content. Imagine a line of text like E. Min content is. Ah, so auto might be the one I'm looking for. So auto. Okay, so fit content. Okay, so this might be. Okay, this is amazing. Really loving CSS grid. Okay, so fit content auto might be the two for this on desktop, on mobile, sorry. Okay, shit. That. Okay, so auto was not what I was looking for. So. Okay, so if it's not. Oh, that's just not right. Fit content and auto. Invalid property value. Oh. Well, I wanted 2 rows. Fit content and auto. When sizing rows and columns, you can use all the lengths you are used to, but you also have keywords, bin content. Can I just not? This is extremely useful and probably what you want. Okay, well, I like that bit. I like that wording in the docs. This is probably what I want. Okay. Is the issue here that I'm using 2 things? No, grid template rows fit content. Invalid property value. Can't have fit content. What does fit content work on? Only the individual. Oh, is that only on like a grid item? I can't have it on a grid template. Find the columns, where is the grid of the server? Track size. You can choose to explicitly name lines. And the bracket frame for the lines. Okay. So do I just put like what would that do? Okay, so that makes them both the same size. Interesting. Okay, that was really that was a bit of a deep dive into that. I think I think what I want is because then we could hang on, sorry. Because this just content just isn't very long, right? But that's a coincidence because it will have a field in it which will make that double the length. Okay, anyway, so that is all now wrapping. So we can then go back to our other form and take out everything apart from runner on stairs because that's what we need to pass in. So in here, we can put in that. And then we need, whoops. That. And we need, get rid of all of those. And we need an end that. Why is none of that working? Oh, because I've missed out. Quote. This all needs to come into there. So now this will jiggle around. Cool. Okay. Okay. So now it's starting to get this case. So we can kind of collapse these down. So as we go back and forward, we can see the height of the image on the left changing based on our length of the form. So that's fine. That's sort of what we want. Then tell us a little bit more about you. Again, now that we've got a view component, this should take 2 seconds to add to users new. We don't have the image for this one yet, but that's okay. Just use the same one for a second, and then this one should change. Tell us a bit more about you, but we can go and grab this picture here, make exportable. Export selected. We're just grabbing the whole thing. I don't know what like. I don't think we're doing any of this properly, but that's fine. It's just for the stream. And this is crowd with holding and oh no, maybe the other way around, right? Person in heart shape in crowd. Then we drag that into the right folder, which is somewhere. Cool. And then we can pass that in here as the name. Cool. Okay, so as we go back through these, so we can see the image on the left changing size, but that's because that's the behavior we've coded, but we now have these all as the same view component, so we can now do whatever we want. And this experience should remain consistent, as should all of our spacing. So we've got our, like, I mean, that's just bonkers, isn't it? Like, it doesn't look right in half the things. But there's loads of cool experimentation you could do, so we're not going to worry too much about it. Cool, okay. I mean, that just looks insane. But, and then we can come in here and just chop that outline out because it's sort of not doing anyone any favors anymore. Cool. All right, so I think I might knock it on the head because that's a lot of streaming for today. I think I'm done. It was a long one. All right, so let's go back over what we did. We did a bunch of stuff in Sketch where we looked at some of like the experience of the flow and how we might order these, where we might put the friction, different images to go on left and right, length of the form, blah, blah, blah. What stays, what doesn't, all fun stuff. We then transitioned over to building those out as view components. And we also have some of these as we made some new symbols. So these are all symbols within our forms. So as we want to swap any of this out, like this is actually a component as well, which I don't know if we built that part out. No, we didn't. So this H1, H2 here, in all three of them, can actually become a section header because that's what we called it in Sketch. And that could just be something that we pass through to the single. Oh no, because the single column layout is just defining which shape. So that could then just be another render call in there. Fair enough. But that's just an H1 and H2, so we're not too fussed about that. Then we built out a view component that represents that layout. We built two dummy versions, one with Flexbox layout and one with CS Grid, compared the two and looked at the APIs and what was different about them. And then we went with the grid version for reasons that are fairly arbitrary. I think maybe Flexbox would have been absolutely fine. I'm in fact, I'm sure of it. But I like the grid thing and we were playing around, so it was fun. And then that's it. They then work with, there's a bunch of very questionable UI behavior, but now it's all a component, so you only need to figure those things out once. And if we were doing this properly, we sort of would have polished up a lot of that thinking and done all this stuff up front. But there's some stuff that you can click through and it works. With that, have wonderful Sundays, everybody. Have wonderful weeks. I don't know if I'll get much chance to touch back on this before next week. But yeah, have a great time, whatever you are up to. And I will hopefully see you next week for some more, probably more design and view component stuff to building, I imagine, just because it's nice polishing this stuff off. Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.